And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today. Buckle up, people. This one may get long, as we have another LeBron James interview where he shows how big of a hypocrite he is. You know, LeBron James is the gift that doesn't know how to shut the hell up. LeBron James is the gift that does not know how to shut the hell up, and apparently he doesn't have any friends who will snatch the microphone away from this guy and say, hey, look, man, just stop talking. Please stop talking. We are doing everything we can to make you look good. We are doing everything we can to convince people that you are the GOAT, but you have got to stop talking. But he keeps talking. So here we are. As I'm sure you've seen, LeBron James has done an interview with Pat McAfee. Now, before we go on, I must point out that LeBron James has several friends in the media who are platinum CFL members who get on and cap for him viciously every day, every single day. These guys get on that microphone and they will say the most outlandish, untruthful, over-exaggerated things to try to make LeBron James appear that he should be in the same conversation with Michael Jordan. Examples: Shannon Sharp, a.k.a. Shay Shay. Example: Draymond Green, a.k.a. LeBron James' #1 dance partner, and a.k.a. Gil's Arena, or also Gil's Arena. All of these guys cap for LeBron James as if their life depended on it. Yet, we see no LeBron James on their podcast. We see no guest appearance from LeBron James on their podcast. And there are many conclusions that we can draw from this. But we won't get into that today because that is not the video. Today's not the video for that. I just wanted to point that out for the LeBron James fanboys who like to say, oh, LeBron James, the activist. Oh, LeBron James, such a good friend and such a good guy and such a good father. Well, such a good friend, apparently he is not good enough to show up on the people who cap for him the most, to show up for the people who cap for him the most. But anyway, he did go on Pat McAfee. This is where he did go. And after months of this player versus media, player versus fans war that has been escalating, where LeBron James has been saying stuff like, who would want to be the face of the league? All they're going to do is criticize you and compare you to players of the past. I mean, who would want to do that? So after LeBron James and people like Kevin Durant trying to blame the fans for the game being less popular and things like that, and saying, hey, well, why can't we just respect all eras? LeBron James comes on this talk show and puts his foot right in his mouth and shows that he's a hypocrite. So, without further ado, people, let's get into this clip.
Like, I get it. Like, those are nostalgic moments, but like the game is different, and we should respect all eras in that era. You know, we can't be saying, okay, just because Wilt was great in the 60s and 70s that he'll be great now. And we also can't say that some of the guys now will be great. It is what it is. Respect that era and we move on. But the whole, every single day that he's better, he's not better, he wouldn't. You trying to tell me Giannis wouldn't be able to play an NBA game in the 70s?
Handshake, he wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, neither would you. Neither would you.
Giannis Antetokounmpo would have 250 points in a game in the 70s. 250.
Is that Cousy?
Okay, see. LeBron James. Mr. High IQ. If Wilt didn't have 200 and something points in the if Wilt didn't have 200 and something points, neither would Giannis. And to me, this shows how much you really understand. First of all, let's start with this. If you take Giannis back then, there is no Euro step, LeBron James. He's not going to be able to do that. You know what else he's not going to be able to do that you and every other NBA player do at will now is carry and travel. He's not going to be able to do that. All these stats that you guys rack up with ease is going to be completely different. Assists were called completely different than they are now. Like basketball now is like a video game. I never thought I'd see the day when, it's funny. It's like when we were coming up and as the video games evolved, and I'm sure we were all like, if you started off with Nintendo, something like Double Dribble, and back then for us that was exciting. And then maybe Sega and Super Nintendo came out, and then it was a little more exciting. Graphics were a little better. Finally, you got to the regular PlayStation, and things were a little better. But we were watching it evolve, and we were all each time we were like, "Oh man, this game looks a little closer to real life," But at some point, they stopped trying to make the game like real life and said, "Oh, we're just gonna make real life like the game." The Adam Silver and LeBron James era of basketball is like the video games. The Adam Silver and LeBron James era of basketball actually opened it up so that you could play street ball in the NBA, which there were some competitors in street ball, but as we all know, those of us who played street ball, there were a lot of things going on street ball that wouldn't fly, like players carrying and traveling. Like all the stuff that you see in the N1 mixtapes, not all of it, but a lot of it was just illegal. It wouldn't fly in the NBA. So they, instead of video games becoming more like real life, they just said, hey, let's make real life like the video games. But anyway, back to the point, LeBron James. You guys wouldn't be able to do the thing. See, this is how short-sighted and how surface level you're thinking about it. It's like, oh, I'll put Giannis back in and he's doing all the things that he does now. No, he is not. He is getting called for all the things he does now. So he's going to have to relearn to play with the way that they played back then. So with you, LeBron James, which I would argue would be impossible for you. But anyway... Let's go on.
Koozie player. Dude, Koozie's locking up fucking Giannis, brother.
He's saying 70s, not 50s.
And that's no disrespect. Like, it's no disrespect. But, like, seriously, like, Kyrie Irving. Like,
they would have called him a witch. They would have called him a witch.
No. They would have told Kyrie, you're not. You know how they used to tell Lou Alcindor at the time that he couldn't dunk in high school games? Yeah. They would have told Kyrie, you're not allowed to dribble anymore. Mm-hmm. That's what they would have told him. Dribbling is out ruled. They would have seen that.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'9".
And how heavy are you?
I'm give or take in between 215 to 280. I don't know. Depends on the day. Okay. Depends on if you give me my cookies or not. Yeah.
Pat Riley's like, we're tipping too close to 280. LeBron, the Beatles are becoming a heavyweight battle. Yeah. So 6'9".
Yeah.
Let's say you're two. You look very thin right now.
Yeah. I feel good.
So 215, 6'9", 220. Could easily get to 260 though. I think that would play in a lot of different areas. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure your weight in being 6'9", there's always been players 6'9". In fact, I would argue back in the day, because there were more men playing, like they actually had real men strength playing versus this manufactured, everybody just looking cut and ripped. But it's a difference between just because you look cut and ripped doesn't mean that you are actually strong. I don't know how many of you guys out there, it's like my grandfather, I used to watch him lift washing machines onto a truck by himself, because that's what he did part-time for a business, is he would fix washing machines and things like that. But he was able to lift a washing machine on a truck by himself. Like, men were just stronger back in the day. So they might not have been ripped and six-pack and all this, but they were like solid, solid, strong, with real strength that could hurt you. So, again, this whole looking at LeBron James and he's 6'9", 250, 260, it's like, yeah, okay, and what does that mean? But let's go back to this statement about Kyrie Irving. Again, LeBron James and his infinite wisdom. But back then they would have said, Kyrie, you can't dribble anymore. Because they actually would have said that, because everything he does would have been illegal back then. LeBron James. Somebody help me understand why this basketball genius doesn't understand that if you go back in time to play, you have to abide by the rules that they play by. Anyway, so that's enough of the duck. So let's talk about this whole. I didn't play this part, but at some point, LeBron James, during the interview, he talks about evolution and you just have to accept it, and he gave some ridiculous example about what a Hummer was like back in 40 or 50 years ago, and how it's so much more advanced now, and yada yada yada. When it comes to human beings, we are not like technology. We benefit from technology, but the human body is only capable of so much. Period. And matter of fact, I would argue it really doesn't matter how much modern medicine we have and modern diets and exercise and all that stuff. I believe to some extent the human body adapts to the environment and the circumstances that it's going through. In other words, times used to be harder, which is why men were stronger, because times were harder. They had to be. Like, they had to be stronger in every way. They had to be stronger mentally and physically. It was just the way it was, and so I believe that in general, humans adapt to what we have to adapt to. Now, on the other side of that, though, it's like, yes, technology is something that will continue to advance, because technology is something that is not confined by biology, so to speak. But when we're talking about biology and the human body and what it's capable of, I would argue that maybe a lot of the reason that we see so many injuries today is because of this quote unquote new modern medicine and all this stuff. In other words, we may actually be trying to do something with the body that everybody's body is not really capable of handling. Like, if you take someone who could only jump 20 inches off the ground, and because of modern medicine and all these other things, you're able to push it to 30 inches or, 30 plus inches. Maybe this person's body just actually wasn't meant to be able to do that, even though you're able to, again, push him past what he was capable of without modern medicine. For LeBron James, a.k.a. the Juice. But yeah, I think to me, that may be part of the problem why we see so many injuries in the NBA is because of all this modern medicine trying to push athletes to be these super athletes. But at the end of the day, they're just human. Now, I did a video, it's a few months ago, but I talked about the Olympics, specifically the 100 meters. And the difference between times and players who were running 100 meters like 50 maybe 60 years ago now, was only like 0.2 or 3 seconds on average. And it wasn't consistent. Like Usain Bolt had the fastest time. It didn't. Usain Bolt had the fastest time of people who came after him or before him. And to me, what that just shows is that sometimes there's just someone who born who just breaks the mold. Someone born who is just, who has another level of athleticism that can be duplicated by someone else. But other than that, times are pretty consistent. So if in the Olympics, the time for the 100 meters, if according to LeBron James and all these people who think, oh, well, evolution's just happened. You take someone 100 years ago into now, and of course the person now is going to be way faster because that's just evolution. That is some BS. Because we are all just human. Again, occasionally there's someone born who just happens to be superhuman, like Usain Bolt, like Michael Jordan, like Mike Tyson, who just athletically can do things that the average athletic person can't do. But to me, the thing I was talking about with the Olympics, that is proof that humans, we are not evolving at the rate where they try to, like they try to make it seem, and definitely not comparable to technology. With LeBron James' ridiculous example, oh, have you ever drove a Hummer from 60 years ago? Your neck hurting and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it might be like the car that you drive on Sunday, but it's like, no, you cannot make the comparison. Now, as far as, let's talk about what's really happened in the game of basketball. LeBron James. Let's talk about what has really happened in the game of basketball. And I believe this is kind of what happens across the board, is you have the beginning of something. And you have the period, the maturation period, so to speak, where, it kind of develops into what it's going to be. And to me, the best time of anything is where the passion, skill, and fundamental of the game is at its highest. Those three things together, the passion, skill, and fundamentals, those three things together are at its highest. That's when it's whatever it is in its peak. It can be music, it could be anything that you're talking about, but we're talking about basketball. And to me, that time was the 90s, if you want to say the late 80s until the early 2000s. But to me, the 90s is like the core time of that, when the passion, skill, and fundamentals was still at its highest for all three. Kind of like the same way that we say that Michael Jordan is the GOAT because he checks all the boxes across the board higher than anyone can check all the boxes across the board. And so what I believe happens, though, and let's just talk about Michael Jordan specifically. What happens is when someone comes along like a Michael Jordan, who the world marvels at. The world is marveling not just at his athleticism, not just at his skill, but also his passion and his hunger for the game, his never say die attitude. It's all of these things that make us marvel. But as the up and coming players, the better players, and let me use better loosely. When I say better, I'm not even necessarily talking about better, but the more things evolve, people hang on to the flashy parts of things. People hang on to the spectacular parts of the game, to the thing that gets the most attention, or at least what they think gets the most attention. When Michael Jordan dunks from the free throw line, when Michael Jordan is hitting game winners, when Michael Jordan is doing reverse layups. These are the things that people tend to hold on to because they look magnificent. And what happens during this so-called process of evolution, but it's really not evolution, it's just change. What happens during this is the fundamentals start to get left by the wayside because people are just picking up on the flashy part. So you had the people, who watched Jordan that sparked a whole new generations of your Iversons and Tracy McGrady's and your Vince Carters, even the people who they thought may be Jordan, like your Harold Miners, your Grant Hills, and obviously your Kobe Bryants, and then just the list goes on. But those people, with the exception of Kobe Bryant, who understood the work, those people were more the flashy generation that came after Michael Jordan from seeing what Michael Jordan did. Now, you take the generation after those players, and it's even more flashy. But the fundamentals get left behind with each generation because the focus becomes on the thing that they think is garnering the attention. The focus becomes the thing that will make people say ooh and ah, and look, he can play. Look, he can go behind the back 15 million times, and he can go through the legs, and he can do all of these flashy things. And these are the things that gets highlighted as each generation goes on. These are the things that the players focus on. And now what happened? You got Steph Curry who comes along, and he's actually a great shooter. And he makes the three-pointer popular, but the thing is not everybody is Steph Curry. But everybody wants to be. So now, again, they're taking the glorious parts of the game. They're taking the part of the game that some player has gained praise from, that some player has wowed the world with. Steph Curry wowed the world with his ability to shoot. So now every little kid wants that. But where are the fundamentals? The fundamentals aren't the flashy part of the game. The fundamentals aren't the thing that's making people go wow and whatnot. But the fundamentals, those are the things that will keep you in the game. And so while people want to talk about this so-called evolution of the game of basketball, I would argue that the game hasn't really evolved at all. The game has just changed. It has changed because each generation focuses on the flashy part of the last generation. And at some point, it stopped being about the fundamentals. Again, what made Michael Jordan is not the flash. The flash is not what made Michael Jordan. If all Michael Jordan could do was dunk from the free throw line and hit some reverse layups, we wouldn't be talking about Michael Jordan in the same light. Yeah, he would probably still be talked about as a great player. Like, oh man, remember that guy Michael Jordan? He could dunk from the free throw line and blah, blah. But that's not what made Michael Jordan. Kenny Smith said it. He said, what made Michael Jordan is he was the most fundamentally sound, who was also the greatest athlete. Meaning he didn't rely on his athleticism. Meaning he respected the game enough to understand that you have to learn the basic fundamentals of the game. That's where it's at. The fundamentals of the game is what made the game easy for Michael Jordan. The fundamentals of the game is why nobody could stop him. All this dribbling 50 million times, that's not fundamentals of the game. The 1-2 dribble pull up. That's what Michael Jordan was about. 1-2 dribble pull up. Being able to work your defender out the triple threat position. This is what Michael Jordan was about. This is what made the game easy for him. This is what made no defender be able to guard the guy. And then he had the flash on top of that. But it was all based off the fundamentals of the game. And so while people like LeBron James want to say some disrespectful crap, like Giannis Antetokounmpo would score 250 or 270 points back in the era with Wilt Chamberlain, LeBron, you must be out your ridiculous mind. You and your ridiculous kingdom. All of you guys are out of your mind. I can understand how he would fix his mouth to say that. Because again, this guy is just double talking all the time. And again, when you're not speaking on truth, you're going to have to double talk. Because you say something untruthful, and then you got to try to, when somebody calls you on it, you got to try to spin it a different, well, I didn't actually mean that. I was saying this, You got to double talk when you're not standing on the truth. To say Kyrie Irving would be like a wizard back then, no. Kyrie Irving would have to abide by the same rules as everybody else on the court, which means that Kyrie Irving may very well be on the bench. But anyway, this video has went on long enough. But hey, fanboys, you are ridiculous, and so is your king. Like I said, I'm sure there'll be a few videos coming out of this ridiculous interview that he chose to do with Pat McAfee instead of Draymond Green or Club Shay Shay. I'm going to keep reminding you fanboys of that as well. But yeah, like I said, this whole notion of the game has evolved like that. To me, this whole notion that human beings evolve like that, it's ridiculous. Like, technology can evolve. Like I said, but when it comes to biology, is no. Like I said, all you got to do is go look at some Olympic records, from 50, 60 years ago and see how they compare. And that will show you that we have not evolved. Not even with the modern, that's the other thing. It's not even with all this so-called modern medicine have these players been able to be much faster than the players of the past in the Olympics. And of course, we also know that the Olympics is much better about screening for the juice, except if your name is LeBron James. But not even with all the modern medicine and all this have the players being able to like I said, get much faster in the Olympics or blow times out the water. And that's because, from a human level, it's like you're going to get as far as you put the work in. And if certain things were allowed back then when basketball, during the Wilt Chamberlain days, if certain things were allowed back then the players would have been doing that. But, to make some statement like Wilt wouldn't have been dominant today, are you out of your mind? Like, you're just saying that to make yourself feel good. You're saying that to make yourself feel good and to make you feel like that you're up here, to make a statement like Wilt. You can't assume that Wilt would have been good today. Yeah, you can assume Wilt would have been a great player today. Just from his athleticism, you could assume that Wilt would have been a great player today, because it's a bunch of players today that just relies on their athleticism. And LeBron James is one of them. But anyway, we gonna hold up here. Stay tuned, people. More things coming. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think of LeBron James, the duck, the deer, the leader of the 4 and 6 kingdom, saying he's saying, he wants all eras should be respected, and in the same breath saying, Giannis Antetokounmpo will score 250 points. He would score 250 points back in the 60s and 70s. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.